Assalamu alaikum, dear student, and welcome back. In our last session, we discussed product, the first pillar of the marketing mix. We explored what a product is, its layers, its classifications, and how branding strengthens its position in the market. In this video, we move on the second P, which is the price. If product is the what of the marketing strategy, price would be the how much. This is a very critical element because it not only affects how customers perceive value, but also directly impacts the company's revenue, profitability, and competitiveness. Okay, so let's start by understanding why pricing is so important and why it's often considered as one of the most challenging aspects of the marketing strategy. So firstly, price influences customer perceptions of value, and it directly affects their purchasing decisions. For example, a high price might signal luxury or high quality, while a lower price could make the product seem affordable and accessible. Secondly, price determines a firm's revenue, market share, and profitability. And like other elements of the marketing mix, price is the one factor that generates income, while the others typically involve costs, especially when it comes to promotion, budget, but also producing the product. And finally, price signals quality. Customers often use price as a proxy for value, particularly when they are unfamiliar with the product or brand. So they will refer to price to decide or to have an idea whether it's a good quality or bad quality. This is why pricing decisions are critical for establishing value in the overall marketing strategy. But despite its importance, pricing is one of the most challenging aspects of marketing. Why? Pricing is incredibly flexible. It can change quickly based on market conditions. For example, changing in purchase power, or if a competitor makes promotions and discounts on products. So in that case, the company should also make changes in its price. It is also very complex because it is influenced by internal factors like costs, but also external factors, as I said, like competitors' decisions and customer preferences and customer purchase power. To navigate more on these complexities, marketers rely on what we call the 5 C's of pricing. So let's break them down one by one. So the 5 C's of pricing provide a structured way to think about pricing decisions. It includes companies' objectives, customers, costs, competition, and channel members. So let's start with the first C, which is the company objectives. Of course, pricing begins with a clear understanding of the company's goal or company's goals, because companies most of the time will focus on different objectives. For example, it could focus on profit orientation, which means that it will set prices to maximize profits or to achieve a specific profit margin. But sometimes the focus will be on sales, which means that the companies here will prioritize market share and the total sales value, even if profits are lower initially. Then you have another approach that a company could have. It is when it is much more focused on competitors. And in this case, the pricing would be related to competitors, which means that the competitor's decision will be taken into consideration to decide whether the company will match the competitor's decisions to fix the price. Maybe sometimes the company will exceed the competitor's price, or sometimes it will undercut the competitor's price. So competition also is a very important approach to take into consideration. And most of the time, of course, the company will focus on customers, which means that it will align price according to what customers expect or values. For example, a company like Tesla might adopt a profit-oriented approach for its innovative electric vehicles. While if you are a budget airline like Ryanair, the focus might be rather than on sales compared with profit. It is much more sales that will be the focus. Okay. Next, we have the second C, which is customers. Of course, this is very important. So, customer-oriented pricing is all about understanding how customers perceive and react to price changes. One key tool here is price elasticity, which is an economic concept. Price elasticity of demand measures how sensitive customers are to price changes. If a small price increase causes a significant drop in sales, it means that the demand is elastic. On the other hand, if the demand stays steady despite price changing, it means that or the demand could be considered as inelastic. For example, luxury goods like designer handbags often have inelastic demand because their customers are less price sensitive. They are seeking or they are buying this product because it is expensive, not because of quality or because of it is they like it. They really buy it because of its expensiveness. On the other hand, or on the opposite, the everyday items like grocery tend to be more elastic. Of course, you will go to stores that offers grocery products in a lower price. So by understanding these dynamics, companies can set price that maximizes both sales and profitability. There's another tool which is very important in when considering customers is what we call price acceptability or price acceptance. So in price acceptance, what the company does is that it conducts a market research or a survey, and we ask customers to choose among certain price levels which one suits the best, which means that it is not considered as expensive, and it is not under a minimum, because under a minimum level of price, the item could be considered of a poor quality. So this is the survey that allows us to determine a range in which the price is the most acceptable, and it is called price acceptance or psychological price. Now let's move on the costs. A company needs to ensure that the price covers its costs while leaving room for profit. So before fixing the profit, I, as a company or as a manager, I should first know how much the product costs. Okay, so basically, and I think that you had studied this in the module of accounting analysis. You have two kind of costs. You have the variable cost that changes with the production volume, such as raw materials, and you have what we call fixed cost. And fixed cost remain constant regardless of production volume. For example, like salaries. So employee salaries remain the same, whether you, whatever the amount of the production is, those fixed price, those fixed costs, or excuse me, those fixed costs, yes, remain the same. You will always have to pay your employees. You will always have to pay the bills of electricity. You will always have to pay the rent, whatever the amount of the production is. So it doesn't depend on the amount of production. So this is why we call them fixed cost. And the total cost would be simply the sum of variable and fixed cost. And of course, doing the math for the costs is very important, because this is how you can measure the profitability. You have first to determine the costs. And the companies often uses a ratio that is called break-even analysis, or break-even. Actually, the break-even will allow the company to identify the minimum sales volume needed to cover the costs. And in French, we call it seuil de rentabilité. And it means that beyond this point, the company starts making profit. So this is the minimum level that it has to reach, the minimum level of sales it has to reach to cover its cost. For example, a coffee might calculate that it needs to sell, let's say, 200 cups of coffee per day to break even. Any additional sales contribute directly to profit. Okay, moving on the fourth C, which is competition. And of course, it plays a huge role in pricing, because companies will have to consider what competitors do. And there's a lot of market situations. You have monopoly, oligopoly, but most of the time it would be the pure competition situation. And in this case, the products are influenced by the market. The fifth and last C refer to the channel members, such as wholesalers and retailers, who are of course part of distribution process that we will details in section 3, I think. But it is very important to know that pricing will depend on those partners, of course, because those partners have margins, and the price will depend on this margin. The price that you will fixed, and that the level of the price that will be communicated to customers will depend on also, of course, it will depend on cost, but it will also depend on the additional margin that are added by the partners, by the intermediaries. Okay, so this is also very important for company to consider. Okay, so now that we've considered the 5 C's, we can move to pricing strategies. And pricing strategies are maybe one of the most important. This is maybe the most important slide in this section. And the pricing strategies are often used when launching a product, most of the time. So basically, there are two main or two common approaches when launching a product. The first is penetration pricing. And penetration pricing means that or is chosen when a company set a low price to quickly gain a market share in competitive markets. while launching, in the phase of introductory, okay? So over time, the price may increase, of course, once the brand is established. And this kind of approach is not always possible. You do it when the demand is very elastic, which means that when customers are very sensitive to price, and you start, as I said, you start with low introductory price and increasing it little by little as the product gains awareness. And you do it most of the time, it is done, as I said, when the demand is elastic, which means it is done with basic product, routine product, grocery products. And the main condition is that the demand for this price should be elastic. Otherwise, it is not possible to do this strategy. The second option is the opposite, and it is called a skimming strategy. As it is the opposite, it means that the companies start by setting a high price, and it decreases little by little as the costs decreases. And this strategy is most of the time suitable to innovative products that are not in which the demand is not elastic. For example, for smartphones. For example, when Apple launches its last smartphone, it is, of course, as you may know, it is always at high price, but there's always a demand for it. There's always a group of customers that are willing to put this high price to get the higher, the best smartphone in the market. Okay, so but of course the costs are very high because those innovative products cost a lot in terms of research, in innovation and development. So it is most likely very expensive products that are adopted by some particular target market, which are always particular customers that are always willing to have the last item or innovative item in the market, and it starts by decreasing little by little as the cost, not as the awareness increases, but as the costs decreases. So it is basically the opposite. Okay, so both strategies have their strengths and are chosen based on the company's goal and, of course, the market conditions. So it is not really a choice. It is the market situation that dictates which one you will adopt. So I think that we have finished this section. And about this second element of the marketing mix. So we explored its importance, the complexity, the 5 C's, and the common strategy. In the next section, which is the third section, we'll move on the third P, which is place. So see you in the next video.